All right, let's dive into one of the most powerful stories ever told about perseverance and faith. We're talking about Prophet Nuh and the Great Flood. You know, it's this incredible narrative of hope, some real heartbreak, and a test of belief on a truly global scale. And really, at the heart of this whole epic story is a question that's so personal, so tough. It really digs into the limits of a father's love and what individual belief is all about. Can a parent's faith actually save a child from the choices they make for themselves? This tension, well, it's what drives the entire story.
So where does this all begin? Well, you have to picture a world that had completely lost its way. A society that was really just wrapped up in its own pride and had forgotten the bigger picture. And right into this world, a messenger was sent with a very clear purpose.
And that messenger was Nuh, a man known by everyone for his integrity, his wisdom, and this profound patience. His mission sounds simple, but it was absolutely monumental. Just remind his people of the one true God and guide them back to a life of meaning and gratitude.
Noah's message wasn't complicated. It was all about kindness, about compassion. He'd point to the blessings all around them, the sun, the rain, the very earth they stood on. But the response he got? It was just harsh. It was filled with mockery, ridicule, and straight-up anger.
And we're not talking about a short mission here. We're talking centuries. For literally hundreds of years, he called out to them, day and night, in public, in private, with a level of patience that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. I mean, can you imagine the kind of strength it takes to face that rejection every single day for a lifetime and never, ever give up on your message?
And that's the thing. Despite all that rejection, Nuh never quit. He understood something really fundamental. For him, the real measure of success wasn't how many followers he had. It was about the sincerity of his effort and his absolute commitment to the mission he was given.
So after centuries of calling out to his people and getting almost nowhere, the instructions he was receiving changed. Noah's mission was about to take this very physical and, to everyone else, a very, very strange turn. It all started with a divine command: build a massive ship. Now, you can just imagine the ridicule that followed. I mean, building a giant ark on dry land, miles and miles from any sea, it seemed completely absurd. But every single thing Noah did from that point on was a profound act of faith, a deep trust in a plan that made zero sense to anyone else.
And with that mindset, every swing of the hammer was way more than just construction. It was a statement of pure trust. He was building on a promise, believing in a divine purpose that was completely invisible to the entire world around him.
And then, after all the warnings, all the patience, all the work, the storm arrives. This is the moment, right here, where everything changes. It's the dramatic, emotional peak of the whole story. All of a sudden, the laughter just stopped. Water started gushing from the ground and pouring from the sky with a force the world had never, ever seen before. The impossible was actually happening. And right here, in the middle of this global catastrophe, this deeply personal tragedy starts to unfold. As the ark is floating, carrying the few believers to safety, Nuh sees his own son, struggling in the rising water. And in that moment, he's not just a prophet, he's a father. He's making a desperate, desperate plea for his child's life.
Which brings us right back to that question we started with, doesn't it? Can a parent's belief, their love, their desperate hope, can any of that be enough to save their child? Is faith something you can just pass down, like a family heirloom?
And the answer in this moment is just devastating. It's no. The son, caught up in his own pride, he genuinely believes he can save himself. He trusts his own strength, his own judgment, over the guidance of his own father and the divine warning. This tragic moment just powerfully shows that belief is an individual journey. It doesn't matter how deep the love is or how close the family bond is. In the end, faith is a choice that every single person has to make for themselves. So, after this immense personal loss, the journey for Nuh and the believers, it has to continue. They now have to endure this unbelievable storm and just wait for the world to be made new again. Just try to picture that scene. A single ship being tossed around on waves that are described as being like mountains. And inside, this small group of believers is just holding on to their shared trust in that divine promise of protection.
And after the waters finally went down, the promise was fulfilled. The ark landed safely on solid ground, and its passengers stepped out into a cleansed world, totally ready to begin a new chapter for humanity, one built on a foundation of faith.
So, what do we take away from this incredible story? I mean, the lessons from Noah's journey are just timeless. They offer this wisdom that resonates just as powerfully today as it did back then. First off, it totally redefines patience for us. It's not about just sitting around passively waiting for things to get better. No, it's an active, powerful trust. It's building an ark on dry land. It's continuing to do the right thing day after day, even when you see zero immediate results.
The core teachings here are so profound. It shows us how important it is to stay firm in our values, no matter who's against you. It teaches us to stay hopeful, even in the absolute worst of times. It reminds us that being consistent and doing the right thing is never, ever wasted, and that every single challenge we face carries some hidden wisdom inside it. And of course, above all else, as we saw in that most painful moment, faith is a deeply personal choice. You just can't make it for someone else.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. You know, Noah's story is about a literal world-ending storm, but we all face storms in our own lives, right? So the question is, when those waves start to rise for you, what is the ark that you're going to trust to carry you through?